This is Atheist at Large, presenting a Fireside Reading, an excerpt from Bad Science by Ben Gold Acre. This is a copyright-free publication that you can find free on the Internet. Please go to www.badscience.net for the rest of the information. I have limited time here, and I can only give you a tease of what is to follow. So please, listen as I taunt you with the narration of the pill pusher. The doctor will sue you now. This chapter did not appear in the original edition of this book, Bad Science, because for 15 months leading up to September 2008, the vitamin pill entrepreneur Matthias Rath was suing me personally and The Guardian for libel. This strategy brought only mixed success. For all that nutritionists may fantasize in public that any critic is somehow a pawn of Big Pharma, in private they would do well to remember that, like many my age who work in the public sector, I don't own a flat. The Guardian generously paid for the lawyers, and in September 2008 Rath dropped his case, which had cost in excess of £500,000 to defend. Rath has paid £220,000 already, and the rest will hopefully follow. Nobody will ever repay me for the endless meetings, the time off work, or the days spent poring over tables filled with endlessly cross-referenced court documents. On this last point there is, however, one small consolation, and I will spell it out as a cautionary tale. I now know more about Matthias Rath than almost any other person alive. My notes, references, and witness statements boxed up in the room where I am sitting right now make a pile as tall as the man himself. And what I will write here is only a tiny fraction of the fuller story that is waiting to be told about him. This chapter, I should also mention, is available free online for anyone who wishes to see it. Matthias Rath takes us rudely outside the contained, almost academic distance of this book. For the most part, we've been interested in the intellectual and cultural consequences of bad science, and the made-up facts in national newspapers, dubious academic practices in universities, some foolish pill peddling, and so on. But what happens if we take these sleights of hand, these pill marketing techniques, and transplant them out of our decadent Western context into a situation where things really matter? In an ideal world, this would only be a thought experiment. AIDS is the opposite of antidote. 25 million people have died from it already, 3 million in the last year alone, and 500,000 of those deaths were children. In South Africa, it kills 300,000 people every year. That's 800 people every day, or 1 every 2 minutes. This one country has 6.3 million people who are HIV positive, including 30% of all pregnant women. There are 1.2 million AIDS orphans under the age of 17. Most chillingly of all, this disaster has appeared suddenly, and while we were watching in 1990, just 1% of adults in South Africa were HIV positive. 10 years later, the figure has risen to 25%. It is hard to mount an emotional bias to raw numbers, but on one thing I think we would all agree. If you were to walk into a situation with that much death, misery, and disease, you would be very careful to make sure that you knew what you were talking about. For the reasons you are about to read, I suspect that Matthias Rath missed the mark. This will conclude the short little tease. Please follow the link and read more about this. This is the end of the first of hopefully many Fireside Readings. This is Atheist at Large, signing off.